All right, so we're diving into Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And wow, this book, it's like it was written for today, you know?
It really is.
This whole idea, like, how do you know who's real? When the line between human and machine, it gets blurry.
Yeah. Dick just drops us right into this future.
Mm-hmm.
Post-apocalyptic, right. And figuring out who's human and who's android, well, it's the central question. It's like unsettling, to say the least.
Definitely. Especially with Deckard.
Oh, absolutely.
He's our bounty hunter, but is he the good guy? That's what I kept asking myself. I mean, he's retiring these androids, but they seem, I don't know, they seem so human.
It's that moral dilemma, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do we draw the line?
Exactly.
When these Nexus 6 models,
Yeah.
they're so advanced.
They want freedom. They have emotions. It's hard to just see them as, like, machines, you know?
Right. And that's what Dick is forcing us to confront, what really separates us from these creations, right? And he gives us this tool.
The Voight-Kampf test.
The Voight-Kampf test,
Yeah.
exactly. This idea that empathy.
That's what makes us human.
That's the core.
Right.
But the bit keeps making you question it, you know?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, the test, it's supposed to measure empathy, but is it really that simple? I mean, there are people who do awful things. Where's their empathy?
Absolutely.
And couldn't an android, like, fake it, mimic empathy just to pass the test?
That's the point, isn't it? Like, what is empathy, really?
Right.
Is it just a set of behaviors? Or is there something deeper, some kind of consciousness that we can't even define?
That's a good question. It's like, if an android can cry, does that mean it's actually feeling sadness? Or is it just programmed to respond that way?
And that takes us to consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? What is it? Is our definition, like, too limited?
Too human-centric, maybe?
Maybe. What if there are other ways of experiencing the world, other kinds of consciousness?
And if there are, how do we decide who deserves, like, our moral consideration?
Exactly.
I mean, thinking about these androids, it's hard not to think about AI today. Chatbots, virtual assistants, they're getting so good at mimicking us.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Almost like companions in a way. And electric sheep, it's like a reeling about what happens when we create things that are so close to us but not quite.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, like what are the consequences?
Mhm.
And then there's this whole thing with Mercerism, this religion,
Right.
where people plug into this machine to share
Or
suffrage,
to shared experience
to connect.
as a way to foster empathy, which, I mean, think about it. In Dick's world,
Yeah,
it's post-apocalypse.
people are isolated.
They've lost so much.
Mm.
So Mercerism, it's this attempt to bring them together through shared pain.
But it makes you think, right? Is
Yeah.
that real empathy? If you have to, like, plug into a machine to feel it.
Right. Can you manufacture empathy?
Yeah. Or does it have to come from, like, a genuine place?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Is it real or just an illusion?
It's like, are we losing real human connection? Because we're relying so much on technology to do it for us.
And that's what Dick is pointing to, isn't it?
Mm.
That fear,
Mm-hmm.
this disconnect. We see it today even.
With social media, right?
Absolutely. Are we really connecting online?
Or are we just presenting these, like, perfect versions of ourselves?
Right.
And does that make us less empathetic to people who are, like, different from us?
It's a real concern.
Yeah. So what happens then to our interactions with machines, you know, as they become more sophisticated, more human-like?
Dick leaves us with some really uncomfortable questions.
He does. And I think that's why this book still feels so relevant. It's not just about androids. It's about us. What it means to be human in this world of technology that's, like, always evolving.
You know, it's interesting. When we think about AI, we usually think, oh, the robots. They're coming for us.
Right. Cold, calculating.
Yeah, exactly. No emotions, just logic.
Okay.
But Electric Sheep kind of flips that on its head. You know? Well, it's the androids who are being hunted, exploited. It's them who are yearning for life, for freedom. And it's the humans who are capable of, well, some pretty terrible things.
It makes you think about Rachel Rosen.
Oh, absolutely.
That Nexus 6, Deckard, he thinks she's real human. He starts to fall for her.
And then that reveal, it's
Mhm.
brutal.
Yeah. It's like, who's the real victim there?
Exactly. Is it Deckard? Because he was fooled.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Rachel? Denied her own, I don't know, her own right to exist.
And that brings up this whole ethical question. If we create something, an AI, so advanced, so human-like, what do we owe them?
Do they have rights?
Exactly.
And that's what Dick is making us think about. What is consciousness? Is it just a human thing?
Or could they achieve that level of awareness? And if they do, what then?
It's almost like, are we playing God And are we ready for the consequences?
That sense of paranoia in the book, it's palpable.
Totally.
Deckard, he's always questioning who's real, who can I trust? And it makes you, the reader, question everything too.
Like you said, holding up a mirror.
Yeah, to our own anxieties about, I don't know, about the future, about technology. I mean, we're surrounded by it. It's changing us, whether we realize it or not.
And that's why Electric Sheep, it still feels so relevant today. It's not just science fiction. It's about the human condition in this tech-driven world. This idea of empathy being like a rare thing.
It's almost like a commodity in the book.
It is. You see with the animals, right?
The real ones versus the electric ones.
Owning a real animal, it's a sign that you can care for something.
It's a status symbol.
Exactly. But most people, they can't afford it. So they have these electric animals, these imitations.
But they're not the same.
No, they lack that spark of life.
It's like empathy itself is becoming artificial.
Right. People are so disconnected.
From each other, from nature. And I think that makes them vulnerable, you know.
Vulnerable to what?
To manipulation, to control, to, I don't know, to losing their humanity.
Which brings us back to Mercerism. This idea of using technology to, well, to create empathy.
But is it really empathy?
Right. It's this shared experience of suffering. But does it change how people act? Does it make them more caring in their everyday lives?
It's a tough question. Can you force someone to feel empathy?
Or is it just an escape?
Like a drug?
Maybe. It's that ambiguity that Dick leaves us with.
Yeah.
Makes you think about technology's role in our own emotions.
I think about, like, the news today. It's all about suffering.
Yeah.
All the time.
Tragedy after tragedy.
Right. Are we becoming more empathetic because of it? Or are we just becoming numb?
Desensitized. Yeah, it's a worry. We're so bombarded with information. And social media, it's like it creates these echo chambers.
Where everyone just agrees with each other.
And it makes it harder to, I don't know, to see other perspectives.
So how do we break out of that? How do we cultivate real empathy in this world of technology? It feels like it's pulling us apart sometimes.
It's the challenge, isn't it? And I think, Dick, he doesn't give us the answers. But he's warning us to pay attention, to be critical, to engage with people who are different from us.
And maybe we need to be more intentional about empathy. It's not something a machine can give us.
Right. It takes effort. It takes vulnerability.
It's like putting yourself in someone else's shoes, really trying to understand their experience.
And that's something we have to choose to do.
Yeah. It's a muscle we have to exercise.
I like that. A muscle.
The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful message from Electric Sheep. Technology can be a tool, but it can't replace those things that make us human. Connection. Empathy.
Our relationship with the world around us, it's like the whole question of what is life, what's real, what's artificial. Electric Sheep really makes you think about that.
It does. It's like this constant blurring of the line.
Like Deckard and his obsession with getting a real animal.
Right, in this world where they're almost extinct.
A real sheep. Or a goat. It's like the ultimate status symbol.
More than that, though, isn't it? It's about having something authentic, something real, in a world that feels so fake.
Yeah. It's like that innate human need to connect with nature. Even in this, like, messed up future, people still crave that.
It's like a reminder, you know, that even with all this technology, we can't escape who we are, those basic needs.
Makes you wonder, are we, like, losing that in our own world? I mean, we're so focused on the digital, the virtual.
I see what you mean. All this time on screens.
Yeah.
Could we be losing touch with, I don't know, with the real world?
That's, I think, one of the big takeaways from Electric Sheep. This message that technology, it's a tool, but it shouldn't replace what matters. You know, like real human connection.
Yeah.
Empathy, our connection to the natural world.
It's a warning. Like, be careful what you create. Think about the consequences.
Yeah. Like, are we heading towards a future where we're more connected to our devices than to each other? Where empathy is like this rare thing.
Heavy stuff to think about.
It is. So for anyone out there who's like about to start reading Electric Sheep for the first time, what's like one thing you would want them to keep in mind?
I'd say don't go in expecting simple answers. It's not just, oh, humans good, robots bad. It's way more complex than that. It's about what it means to be human.
Yeah.
You know, in a world that's constantly changing.
Yeah. Be ready to be challenged. This book, It'll make you question everything. It might even make you question yourself.
That's the beauty of it, though,
Yeah.
right? The good science fiction, it makes you think. It takes you out of your comfort zone, makes you imagine what if.
Totally. So to all our listeners out there, as you dive into Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? We leave you with this. If you had to take that Voight-Kampf test, would you pass? And what would that really tell you about yourself, about your own empathy, your own humanity in this crazy world? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.